Welcome to podcast 173. Do you start out providing solutions or do you clarify the problem? Stay with us.
This is the Elevate Construction Podcast, delivering remarkable content for workers, leaders, and companies in construction wanting to take their next step. Get ready to step out of your comfort zone with Jason Schroeder as he encourages you to do better, live a remarkable life, and expect more. Let's go.
Welcome, everyone. I hope you're doing well today. It's a Monday, and I know that, there's probably not going to be a lot of activity out there. So, heading into the New Year's, maybe you're on PTO, maybe the job sites are a little bit quiet, maybe a lot of different things are going on, but I hope that I can bring a little bit of cheer and energy for you this Monday morning so that you can have a great week. Hey, just one quick little note from the Schroeder family to you is that we celebrate Christmas all the way to January 6th. I don't know if that depresses you or excites you, but what we do is after Thanksgiving, we'll decorate for Christmas. We'll do all the leading up to it, Christmas songs, lights, things like that, and then break out the toys and release what I call Toy-mageddon on the house. and then after that, on the 26th, we start a process where we go through the 12 days of Christmas and really get into the meaning of things. And every day I've decided, so that I don't have post-Christmas depression, I'm going to put up a new little set of lights every day for all of the 12 days of Christmas. And really, Christmas, or the holiday season rather, maybe not Christmas, but it doesn't end for me until February 2nd. So I refuse to take down my lights before February 2nd because I need some happiness after 2020. The outside conditions, internally things were great, but the outside conditions, I'm going to throw some joy around. So I hope you're doing well. If you're taking down your lights, I'll shoot you a picture of mine so we can have some fun this week. Anyway, I'm really hoping that you're setting some good goals for the new year. I know that's cliche, but why does it have to be? Why does it have to be a negative thing? Every year when I hear the Charlie Brown comment, on the little Christmas cartoon where he says Christmas is so commercialized and, all of these things are cliche. I'm like, that's kind of cool. Like, these are traditions. I love that Walmart and Home Depot and all these places put out decorations early. I don't see what's wrong with it. It gets me into the Christmas spirit. And what's wrong with using the new year to set some goals? I think it's kind of cool. Even if we don't hit them all, at least I'm going to use that deadly word, trying. At least we're making a good faith effort. So I really hope you guys, I'm going to just say it, I hope you're setting some good goals and that you're ready for the new year. Every role that I get, I will detail, hey, what is the real deep meaning, true meaning, responsibility of my role? What are my resolutions about how I'm going to carry out that role? And then what's my leader standard work? And that leader standard work will go onto my calendar and be executed on a daily basis on my to-do list. And so if we have a role that we don't clearly define and clearly define how we're going to do it, and then identify leader standard work, then our calendar and our to-do list systems become just happenstance, whatever somebody wants, and it could lead us in any direction, but most of the time it leads us into a servant direction, where we're at the whims of other people and really not in control. And so I always define my role, my resolutions, my leader standard work, my calendar, my to-do list system, and execute that in an effective way because my role educates my resolutions. My role and resolutions educate my leader standard work. My leader standard work is how I hold my calendar system accountable, and my to-do list is how I execute every day. And if I do that and scale that all the way through, then I can get 60% on a daily basis of the things done that I have to do, which will make a really big difference versus the 20%, going back to the 80-20 rule, the Pareto principle. So that's me. And like I said, Friday is my first day full-time with Elevate Construction. Wish me the best of luck. Pray for me. But in my new role, I will have resolutions and leader standard work and a calendar to match and a to-do list system that supports it on a daily basis. And one quick thing so that's my little intro here. So one thing I'd like to share with you as we get into this podcast today is something fun that we're doing with the family. And so for the 12 days of Christmas, in addition to some of the fun stuff with lights and ornaments and, the message about the true meaning there, day one, we're going to do a reflection on 2020. Day two, we'll finalize that. Day three, we'll do our family vision for 2021 and plan the year. Day 4, finalize that plan, that vision for 2021. You know, I was just talking to the family tonight. This is the last year that my family will be complete. And, you know, it'll be complete in the future as well. But I mean, complete where we're just the Schroeder family, because Reno has 1 year before he heads off on a mission. And, you know, we won't see him for 2 years, and then other kids will just start filing off, and our family will start shrinking, and then we'll get in-laws, daughter-in-laws, son-in-laws, and get this big extended family, and more chaos will enter our lives there. But really, we only have 1 year left with Reno, and so we have to make the best of it. So day 4 is finalizing the family vision for 2021. Day 5 is helping the kids with their mission, vision, and values. And then day 6 is helping the kids to develop their own personal goals to accomplish that. Day 7, get the kids set up with a personal organization system, whether that's to-do list on paper, on their phones, whatever, so they can be effective. Day 8, what are the daily habits that will help them accomplish their goals? Day 9, daily standard goal setting, meaning standard work, meaning for those daily habits, what are some goals that they can achieve? You know, if they have habits they want to exercise, how many push-ups, how many sit-ups are you wanting to do? If you want to, you know, get closer to the Lord, how long do you want to read scriptures? Like, make those goals more meaningful. Day 10, the thematic and defining family goals, to make sure that we know, hey, what's most important for the Schroeder family in the next 4 to 6 months, and what are the defining goals that will get us there together. But we're doing that after the kids' goals, so that we make sure the kids' goals and personal life goals tie into the family overall goals as an overall system. And then number 11, we'll set homeschool individual goals for our family, and then 12, roll out the clarity document, put it on the wall with all of our stuff in the hallway, and make sure it's nicely formatted so we can head in a good direction. So that's a little fun thing that the Schroeder family is doing on a personal side. So figured I'd share that with you. Hopefully it's helpful. You know, maybe it's not. 2 things before we get into the actual podcast. What am I excited about in life? I'd love to cover that. Well, I recently got a new calling at church. And when I talk about calling, it's a responsibility. It's a duty. It's very defined what you're supposed to be doing. I get to work with the youth in our ward, and I'm very, very excited about that, and the leadership responsibilities that come there, and the people that I get to work with. So I talked a couple weeks ago about these different aspects of life being in place. Right now, work is great, church is great, family is great, and in the new year, I'm going to work on my health because I've been getting a little bit too close to this Christmas food. Don't kid you. I'm like, okay, tomorrow for date night. That's the last night that we eat garbage food. I'm going to get back where I need to be. Anyway, so that's what I'm excited about in life right now. Church is really jamming and doing well, and I'm looking forward to the opportunities that I'm going to have for the next 5 years there. So, answering the question, what's changing in the construction industry? I'll be quick about it today. We need total participation. And the days of somebody deciding what's going to happen for everybody else and just shoving it down their throats is over. I mean, when you think about the last planner system, it's really just a system. It's a great system, but it's just a system to get total participation. Because back in the day, there wasn't anything wrong with, you know, planning and doing overall schedules. What was inherently with the intent, the problem was how they did it. Is that they did it in a silo. They decided for everybody and then shoved it down their throats, right? The last planner system is a way to garner and gather the information and the plan and the direction from everybody and head together going forward. And the other day I heard of a person that was talking with his leadership group, and he finally let the cat out of the bag. That he was like, I just think we leaders need to decide everything and tell everyone else what to do, and they just need to follow. And I was like, wow, what a disgusting belief. What a disgusting belief system. Inasmuch as we can define how we're going to do something and set goals and set the end destination, we should and will be better off if we can garner total participation with the group and gather and garner information and ideas and opinions and thoughts and commitment from people as we go in anything that we do. So the best leaders are the ones that give autonomy, that set a really clear goal and provide the resources, right? And check in with people And the worst leaders are the ones that say, well, I'm going to do it. I'm the only one smart enough. I'm going to step in and replace you when things go bad. I'm going to step down and do lower level work. I'm smarter than you. Those are the bad leaders, and they really need to retire or go away, because our construction industry is too important for so many people to have that kind of thinking continue. And I've had to repent of things like that in the past, and so I'm just as guilty as anyone. But I have seen the difference it makes when we have total participation. And so right now, the buzz phrase or word or what words or whatever you want to call it in lean can't just be, just in time and flow and all of these fun things. Right now, our buzzwords in lean and in the construction industry needs to be total participation over and over, repeated over and over again. So here's some conflict for us today. This actually ties to it, kind of. No, it ties to it. So the conflict is, you may not be taking enough time to define the problem first. And backing it up to the total participation comment, you might not be taking the time to define the problem with the people that know what the problem is, and then solving the problem with the people that are closest to the work. You might be just going straight into providing a solution when you're not even the right person to solve it, and you haven't even defined the problem first. So here's a little story. This is actually a personal story, so please forgive me for the personal and kind of churchy nature of it, but I've had a lot of experiences, at church that really tie into work, and so I'll share this one with you. We were in a unit in Texas, a church unit in Texas, and when I was called, I had a similar calling as I do now. We really knew through inspiration that missionary work and taking care of the children were the biggest focuses. Like, that's what we were supposed to be doing, taking care of the kids and making sure that we're reaching out and doing missionary work, right? But everyone hates missionary work. Like, everyone hates talking to people. Everyone hates sharing it. Most people hate hearing, messages about missionary work. It's just not a fun thing all the time, if I'm being honest, and I am being honest. And I, just not really knowing what the problem is or the opportunity was there, I said, okay, we're going to have church talks and pamphlets and reminders and programs and systems all around missionary work. And finally, people got so tired of me talking about it that I even got comments, and people were just like, oh my gosh, like, will you just shut up? Like, shut up about it. And I heard from a very wise person, hey, Jason, the problem isn't a lack of focus on missionary work. The problem is basic feelings of connection in the church unit, and in reading scriptures and in praying and doing the fundamental things in life that will intrinsically motivate people to go out and be joyful and share messages and experiences and activities with other people. And so what did I do? I didn't define the problem. I just went right into, hey, this is what we're doing. But if I would have taken a minute to define what the problem is, I would have realized really quickly it's the basic, back to basic, fundamental things that all of us need to be joyful and happy and connected, that will cause us to go share wonderful things with other people. And so that was a prime example. Sorry I had to use a church example there. I didn't have to, but sorry I chose that. I think it really illustrates the opportunity that I'm talking about today. And so I got really two really cool perspectives here, and by way of principle, and I want to share them with you now. So, and if I get one or two details here wrong, please let me off the hook. The overall concept is true, and it's the same, and I've used these over and over. So number one, I watched a program, I think it was on 60 Minutes, actually, let's just use that to give me a little bit more credibility, but they were injecting certain non-lethal strains of the polio virus into brain tumors. And this science was really neat, because what they said was, with cancer, most of the time, the cancer cells have outward-facing receptors that make it to where the body doesn't recognize that it's an enemy. And that's actually the problem. If your body knew it was cancer, most of the time, it can go fight it. It can go detect it. Chemotherapy, there's so many other types of therapy, but chemotherapy, for the most part, prevents the growth of new cells, so it should also prevent the growth of new cancer cells while certain treatments or surgeries are being done, right? But the main problem with cancer is that the body doesn't know it's cancer, and it isn't detecting it. It doesn't know what the problem is. There you go. I just let it out of the bag. That's where I'm headed with this. And so what they would do is they would inject these non-lethal strains of the polio virus into these tumors, and then the body would recognize, hey, this virus is in these cells, and start attacking these cells, and the body would wake up and attack the tumor, and the tumors would shrink. On the program, you would see these massive brain tumors, and you would see them shrink and shrink and shrink and shrink. And then as compared to when they didn't inject it with the virus. And so the problem with the body is it didn't realize that it was a problem. And then my second little story or analogy, which I really think you'll like hearing it again. I know for a fact that I've done this before. Yeah, I've said this before, but here you go. You're going to get it again because it's so good. Leprosy, leprosy is a microorganism that destroys your nerve endings. Somebody one time in a talk called it a germ. I don't know if it's exactly a germ, but it's an invasive microorganism that destroys your nerve endings. And the reason that people with leprosy start to fall apart and they get lesions and their fingers fall off and they have all these problems and they're ruptures and they basically deteriorate is because you'll hit your hand against something and your body doesn't notice it. It doesn't repair it. Or you'll bruise yourself and your body doesn't repair it. Basically, your body gets damage to it and doesn't have the immunity, the auto response to go correct these systems because you can't feel it. And so that's really the problem, is it destroys the ends of your nervous system. And if you did have your nervous system intact, it would say, okay, there's a bruise here. Let's go ahead and send an autoimmune response. Let's send white blood cells there and repair it, right? But it's not doing that. And so leprosy, you basically rot because your body doesn't know that there's a problem and doesn't fix it. Or your immune system is working and it's fixing the wrong problem. We've all heard of autoimmune disorders attacking the wrong problem. And so those are two really key principles that I really love. And so the current condition is most of the time in our leadership, in our companies, on the project, or wherever we are, it could be a church, it could be a home, wherever, we go straight to a solution. Especially you extroverts, and me, I'm an extrovert too, especially you extroverts, you go straight to a solution. You don't really know the problem. And so here's the challenge. Number one, and I mean this very seriously, I'm going to have to check and see if I've done a program about introversion, because I really hope that I have, because introverts, because of the way they think, and it does take longer, but because of the way they think, they go through all of the steps and they think it out, and they come back with well thought out, beautiful opinions. Me, I access the front part of my brain. I'll give you quick opinions. So my first challenge to you is when you have to make decisions, or you have something to solve, or you're rolling out a process, take the time to ask an introvert and wait the 24 hours that's needed to get a really good opinion. I have a really good buddy, a field operations director, where I do that. In fact, my other buddy, who is an extrovert like I am, we're like, wait a minute, we have to call him and ask his opinion because we need to make good decisions. And he will always point me to defining the problem first. And sometimes in a conversation, he'll be like, well, guys, is that really what we're talking about? What is the problem? And then we'll be like, well, I didn't really think about it. And then we think about the problem. We're like, well, we were way off. Samsonite. If you already got that joke, email me and I'll give you something free. But anyway, so like we were way off on this. And it totally leads the conversation in a different direction. So ask an introvert, give it time. And if there's somebody on your team that's really good at that, please leverage them and don't kick them off your team. And don't say, oh, I don't like them, and so they're not going to be on the leadership team. Welcome them onto your leadership team because they're going to help you make better decisions. Number 3, take the time to really understand what the problem is. Just give it time. And number 4, then make solutions with people that are closest to the work. And there's a really neat book. You had to know I was going to reference the book here, but it's called Decisive. And there's a process called the WRAP process. And here's what it says in the little handout. To make better choices, we must avoid the most common decision-making biases. Being aware of these biases isn't sufficient to avoid them, but a process can help. The WRAP process can help us make better, bolder decisions. And so number 1, W, widen your options. Narrow framing leads us to overlook options. Executives and teenagers and people in silos will say, well, whether or not, and it's an or. But we need to uncover new options and, when possible, consider them simultaneously through multi-tracking. We need to think about and, not or. maybe we can do this and the other thing, and what's the other option, and. So where can you find these new options? Find someone who can solve your problem or who has solved your problem before, and ask an introvert. First, look for current bright spots, where times or people where this has been solved, or best practices or analogies, similar situations where you can learn from other situations and get more options from different perspectives. And then the R is reality test your assumptions. In assessing our options, the confirmation bias leads us to collect skewed, self-serving information. To combat that bias, we can ask disconfirming questions. What problems does this thing actually have? We can also zoom out and look at the actual data. How much does it cost? What will the consequences be? Maybe we do a pros and cons analysis, or just a choosing by advantages analysis, and step back and look at it objectively. But the bottom line is, we need to get more data. The more data that we have, the better off we're going to be. I remember just a quick little story here. When I used to solve a lot of problems for surveying and layout and control, and problems on big construction projects where there were problems with that. And by the way, Elevate Construction still does that, in case you're wondering. The more data I had, the better off I was. Where is this? Where is that located? How does this all connect together? We need to do a traverse. We need to do some radial staking shots, some side shots. We need to do a level loop to find out this. Where did we actually get this basis of information? Who did this? Give me the information. In fact, on the, I don't know if I've told you this story. If I haven't, I will. But where I and this sounds arrogant, but let me say it like this. I participated in fixing a huge I did tell that story, a huge civil project. And where I found the problem was, I got the data from the GPS equipment and saw their localization, where they were 0.12, I think it was it's 0.25. They were 0.25 feet off in the localization, which told me what the problem was. The control points were skewed, and the GPS localization wasn't going to recognize the skewed coordinate system. It just moved it over 0.25, and so all this work was off. And so data, collection. And finally, I realized what's going on instead of assuming. So reality test your assumptions. A, attain distance before deciding. Short-term emotion tempts us to make choices that are bad in the long term. To avoid that, we need to attain distance by shifting perspective. What would I tell my best friend to do? Or what would my successor do? Or, give it time and ask your buddy, your introverted friend. When decisions are agonizing, we need to clarify our core priorities and go on the offensive for them. We can't just make emotional, quick decisions. And so, especially if you're an extrovert, you're going to have this problem. But if you're an emotional extrovert, you're going to have this problem. So get some distance, give it some time, and make sure that you step out of that emotion and shift your perspective so you can really see what's going on. And then P, prepare to be wrong. We are overconfident, thinking we know how the future will unfold when we really don't. And so we should be prepared for, way from the, all the way in the beginning, could we be wrong about this? And accept that. Just say, hey, I might be wrong about this, instead of getting married to your decision. And then be ready to adapt if it is wrong, or to accept somebody else's opinion as you're heading in a good direction. And so why does that little decisive wrap process help us? Because it helps us to use a process to really say, do I actually know the problem here? And can I go with the right people and figure out a solution with the group, with total participation, and head in the right direction and make a solution with a group of people that are closest to the work and actually know what's going on. And so the vision for this is, you should be able to move forward in a way with your decisions, with your solutions, where you can go with the team, with the best information together, but by first defining the problem very clearly. This is our problem. Let's start there. So with this problem, what are all of our options for a solution? Let's ask different types of people. Let's get some distance. Let's reality test these things. Let's make sure we have all the options possible. Let's assume that we can be wrong, and we will get to a better solution and move forward with the group. On we go.
Please join us next time in elevating the entire construction experience for workers, leaders, and companies coast to coast. If you're enjoying the show, please feel free to share with your construction colleagues And help us spread the word by rating, subscribing, and leaving a review on your preferred podcast listening platform. We really appreciate it. We'll catch you next time on the Elevate Construction Podcast.